Video 2.1, the Romanesca Schema. Cimarosa was a composer from Mozart's time. He lost his father when a little boy and was taken in by one of the conservatories. What you see on the screen is the beginning of one of his lessons, which are still preserved in his student notebook. What he saw in his lesson book was what he would play with his left hand at the harpsichord or organ. The Italian masters called it, very simply, down a fourth, up a step. It leaps down from C to G and then ascends from G to A and then does that again. Here's what it sounded like, what he would play with his left hand. That is, he played the Romanesca Schema, so called after an old Italian song, and then a closing gesture called a cadence. Now that's what he saw. That wasn't the lesson. The lesson was to complete this as a piece of music with more than one voice. So, the first realization or completion would be to add a simple melody. And the simplest one, the one chosen most often, was a descending scale that would start a third above or an octave and a third above. Here it would be on a high E. Let's listen to what he would play. As mentioned, this was the simplest kind of thing. He could add a second upper melody, an imaginary alto to go a third below the imaginary soprano. A common variation was to suspend or delay the alto voice so that it moved independently of the soprano voice. And this opens up a world of variations. We could, for example, or the boy could, play the alto higher than the soprano. This brought the boy very close to the level of real music of that time. Here's an old manuscript, for example, and you'll see the bass goes down a fourth, up a second, down a fourth, up a second, down a fourth. The title says basso C period, basso continuo. Well, the bass continues, but it's not written out. It just keeps repeating. In the first violin part, you'll see, circled in blue, a descending line that starts an octave and a third higher than the bass. This is the Romanesca Schema. That note is taken up by the second violin and then by the third violin. If we go back to the first violin, you'll see in green that it continues with what would be the alto voice in the Romanesca Schema. Each voice imitates the other in a rule of imitation, or as it's called, a canon. This is Pachelbel's canon. Let's listen to a fine performance of it. So to recap, Cimarosa's lesson book showed him how to play the schema and a cadence that itself was the basis for Pachelbel's canon and thousands of other pieces. It was his entry, or one of the entry points, into the world of adult music.